Check.
Ready to roll.
In the saddle.
Matt, welcome to the Men Made for More podcast, man. I'm stoked to have you on here for our first in-person one here at Inside Out Strength and Performance. So
First in person.
Come on. Honored for it. So We'll see how it goes. For those watching the video, we get the fresh look here away from the normal podcast scene. But
yeah.
Thanks for coming on today, man.
This is good social distance, right?
Yeah, we're distanced.
We're safe.
We're safe.
There might be some footsies going on underneath the table, but I think we're good.
Up top, we're good. Yeah, so, now, why don't you fill in listeners here, give a little background on your story personally, professionally, where you're at, and kind of your background so people can get a better idea of you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, thanks again for having me on. I feel honored. Just, the privilege of being here. Just feel like I'm actually getting a workout just by sitting in this gym.
That's how it works.
Feels great. But my story it's kind of a, unconventional one, but let me say currently I'm on staff as a pastor at our church and been there for about 15 years. And that's not something I ever thought I was going to do. It wasn't like, posters of pastors on my wall as a kid, that's what I want to be when I grew up. But because all I wanted to do for me personally was just be the rock star, bro. I wanted to, I played drums, guitar, actually, was self-taught in all of those things. I didn't have YouTube like the kids have these days. It's crazy what access they have to things like that. But just loved music and loved playing drums, playing the guitar. And so I got started with some bands and doing that kind of thing. And that was kind of in high school, right out of high school, that's all I wanted to do and pursue. Long story short, from there, a band that I had actually had started, I ended up getting kicked out of my own band and kicked out. And then from that point on, it was just really a pivot in my life. A friend of mine who was a youth pastor at the church that I currently am at right now, he invited me to be a part of the ministry. And that's where I just felt, God awakened in me this desire and passion to lead and to invest in the lives of others. And it was over a course of years of doing that it really was cemented, like, this is what I want to do. So long story short, my role has been at the church has morphed and changed and evolved, but I've been there for 15 years and it's been a wild ride. About 10 years ago, met Paige, got married, and we now have just a little over a 2-year-old boy, little Archer. And so I'm learning what it's like to be a dad and all of the fun and challenges and everything that comes with that. So long story short, that's where it brings us to today.
Brings us to where we are.
Yeah.
And I know you said you're wearing a lot of different roles at the church. How's it evolved from when you started to where you are now?
Yeah. Started in youth ministry. So that friend I was telling you about, shortly after I came on board there and was a part of the team, he was actually let go. And there was this vacuum of leadership. And so there were a few of us leaders, we kind of banded together to keep the ministry going. And again, that time I still kind of wanted to just do music. That was my gig. But God used that transition in that time, that season to awaken that passion. And so all of a sudden I found myself really caring about this team, the students, and keeping everyone, making sure that everyone was cared for and that the ministry kept going. And so we did that for about 7 years, youth ministry. So I ended up getting hired on as the youth pastor, did that for about 7 years, and then transitioned for about 5 years into a role that was kind of a hybrid of young adult ministry plus some like communications and marketing and website, social media, all that kind of stuff. And just about 2-3 years ago, transitioned again into my current role, which is pastor of overseeing all of our groups, our young adult ministry, and then getting to teach, once a month, once every 5 weeks or so. So it's been kind of a wild ride, and I'm doing things today, in ministry that just was never on my radar. But it's kind of been cool along the way. People have been able to call out and notice and to pinpoint different giftings and things that they've seen in me. And I've needed that to kind of, I don't know what I'm doing, to be honest. And it's been cool to have people called out and say, Matt, like, you are good at this. You have a gift here. And so that's been a huge encouragement as well. And so, yeah, different roles, but within the same church. And it's been a gift to be there.
Yeah. It's been awesome getting to know you and hearing, Lindsay and I would both agree on this, hearing you preach both formally on Sundays, but also just talking with you. It's, it's definitely, you have a unique gift with tying together, certain things that even for Christians, for non-Christians alike, like applicable life things. And I know you read into some of the self-help world, like you're aware of those things too. It's not like only based on the Bible and not exposing yourself to other things. And because the things we're going to talk about today are so, we're talking off camera, are so applicable to people in general, of how to improve your relationships, how to be more vulnerable, how to give love. And I know for you mentioned that important thing is receiving love first. And how do we, especially vulnerability is such a big kind of buzzword, I think right now. A lot of people are talking about being vulnerable, and it's more accepted to be vulnerable. It's something we're encouraged to just like go out there and be vulnerable. And I think easier said than done, I think, with actually letting people truly into our lives. But what challenges do you see with for men especially, is trying to put up this macho front? We're trying to be these bold men, these men that are unfazed. How do we start to let love in, and how do we do that with how we're loving others and loving ourselves as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. A mentor of mine once said, he defined love in this way. He said, love is the process of meeting needs. And so in order to love and to be loved, there has to be needs that are being met. And I think what you're talking about and describing macho men, like as a persona, as a shield and a shell, it doesn't allow a man to be loved. If you walk around thinking I have to be my strongest self, and I can't show any weakness, I can't show any limitations and all that stuff, what you're doing, it might feel like it's self-protection and all that, but what you're doing is that you're actually keeping love out. You can't be loved if people aren't allowed to meet a need. And so when we minimize our needs and we hide our weaknesses, we're actually we're harming ourselves, from being able to receive the love and the care, the support that others are ready to give us. So I'd say one of the things that, the macho man, the man's man, all of however you wanted to describe that, it definitely, it keeps people out.
Yeah. And and I know some men can be skeptical of going out and maybe sharing their feelings with where's it start? Where's maybe a practical starting point for people? Is it just within the home, or like, how do you start to, we're not necessarily saying just go tell everyone you meet, like every stranger, your deepest, darkest secrets or anything, but how would you suggest guys start to branch into this? Cause it's a big shift for some people if they're used to putting up this front and this shield. How do we start to break down that shield to let that in?
Yeah. Well, I think first things first, you got to come and get to know Dr. Dave, just be on his podcast. It
opens up lives.
It does. No, but it's a great question. Like, what do we do? I think first and foremost, I want to answer that question with some practicals, but to really think through a couple things here. We live in a culture that tells us, the way that I've said it before is we're allergic to need and we're addicted to strength. And we got to realize the culture that we swim in is really, it's teaching us to operate in a certain way. And I'd say it's even lying to us about what it means to be strong, what it means to be a man. And the way that I think about this, we have to understand that we are created beings. Whatever faith background you have, whatever, you come from, like, I think we can come to the common understanding that we didn't create ourselves. We're created beings and we have a creator. And again, I don't know if not everyone's going to agree with that, but just that give that premise a chance. Take this premise for a test drive. If you are a created being, you have a creator, then you are created to function in a certain way. There's a way in which you were designed to live. And the thing that I keep coming back to is like, like feelings and emotions. So those are like kind of one of the things we're talking about. Like, men have a, I'd say mostly men, it can be a man and woman issue too. Like mostly men have a hard time sharing emotion, showing, the cracks in the armor, feelings and all that stuff. We stay away from those things. But what if you were created to feel? What if that's part of the design? You're given a heart, and your heart, you don't have to train your heart. Your heart it feels things. There's emotions. And so instead of like pushing emotions away and getting them, I don't want anything to do with feelings and emotions. What if we actually began to be curious about what those feelings and those emotions were? Again, it's not going away from who we are, but going deeper into it. Going deeper into, if we're created and we are created with a heart that feels, it behooves us to understand that, and to go deeper into that, and to understand, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I'm thinking? What are my fears, my wounds, the pains, my joys? So I think first things first is just understanding that feelings are not the F word, okay? Feelings are a good thing. And to learn how to identify those would be like step one. And then begin to open yourselves up to like talking about those with others. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. We're not suggesting like, here's your prescription, go and just start to, find a shoulder to cry on, go and share everything that you're going through. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that, just in terms of us being created beings? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, one thing that stood out as you were talking about that too, is, we look at this pandemic and this lockdown, and the need to be in relationship is more evident now than it's ever been. Especially we look back to March, April with shutdowns and lockdowns and those things too. I don't think anyone can argue, said regardless of belief background, that we're made to be in community and relationship for those that were, in some kind of community already, and that got taken away, regardless of friendships, families, seeing people. That I think that revealed its need of how badly we need to be regularly doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fundamental. I mean, we are relational beings, and you're absolutely right. There's been something that we've seen just in the aftermath, or throughout the course of the last 8-9 months of this pandemic, is just the importance of relationships and families and people, and being known by others, and being able to share and to relate, to carry burdens, and to really, again, like to think about the needs that have surfaced in this time. Like I've seen both cases here where there's been a lot of need, and then there's also been this really cool way where people have been, call it needs and leads. Like there's a lot of people with needs, and there's a lot of people with leads. Like I can meet that. And think about this, is that when we express need and limitation to others, we're actually in giving them an invitation to step more fully into who they are. Like what a cool gift that is. If you, Dave, if you're trying to love me, to support me, and I'm like, no, dude, I'm good, I'm fine. It's actually, it's not me, I don't know. Oh, I don't want to be a burden to you. Sure, that might be a part of it, but I'm actually saying, no, I'm not allowing you to love me. I'm not allowing you to be who you were created to be. So it's just kind of a cool thing for us to express need to one another, to express, dude, like, man, this is going on. Here's a hard situation. We're opening that up. Like we're actually inviting other people to step more fully into who they were created to be. Like what a cool gift that is.
Yeah, no, I love that. It puts some different perspective on it, because I never thought about that as relates to our gifts, our talents, and those other things. I can't think of a time where I've ever, offered someone something and been like, hey, like I want you to have this, or, whatever that may be. And them being like, oh, no, like, and rejecting it, me feeling really like I never feel good leaving that encounter, versus if they take it and they're appreciative and they actually accept it. And, I didn't think about that as much as it relates to like love as well.
Yeah. I mean, think about, it's a gift to receive a gift. Well, it's allowing that person to be who they are, and so it seems like we're helping people out by, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be, and again, we also don't want to say, I mean, we get it. There's people that take advantage of this kind of thing. And there's the highly needy friends and the people, man, every time I'm with them, they suck me dry. Again, we're not talking about those extremes. Those exist. And there's different protocol for that. Sure. We're just talking about just the day-to-day life, like living on this planet. You are going to encounter limitation. You're going to encounter need. You're going to encounter weakness. And you're also going to be able to offer and provide strength. You're going to be able to offer resources. You're going to be able to give. So it's just both and so it's just like, what does it look like for us to live in light of who we are and here on this planet, this broken place that will eventually, it will come at us. We will be in positions of need. Are we willing to reach out and allow people to love us?
Yeah, that's great. And so you mentioned first thing is identifying those things. And I think for some that might be a great starting point if they've pushed emotions so far aside that they can't even identify what they're feeling. It sounds like that's a great start. But for those that are maybe aware but unable to share, what advice do you have in terms of, okay, I've identified these things. This is where my insecurities are. This is where my emotions are that I'm pushing aside. How do you recommend, or what's stopping people from sharing? Because I think of things like fear. I think of things like insecurity, fear, rejection, like those things. What's stopping people, and what are maybe some ways that they can get over that? Because like we said, it's easy to sit here and be like, oh, just go share that thing. But those cuts,
go share it.
Those cuts can be deep, and those can be hard to let people in on.
Yeah. Well, it's often in relationships that we experience the deepest wounding, but it's also going to be in relationships that we experience the deepest healing. And it almost feels like paradoxical, like, man, and a lot of times, where we've been hurt and wounded, like we want to just stay as far away from that. Like, and we make these vows and these promises to ourselves. Well, I went off and I shared my this extremely painful thing with my friend, and I was betrayed. I was rejected, or whatever that might be. Then this is where the vow comes in. I will never do that again. Like I'm never going to allow myself to be known and be exposed in that way. And so a lot of the things that that we do today to make ourselves appear like we've got it together, and all the resume building activities that we're a part of, all of the persona management that we're obsessed with, it really is a reaction to, potentially a reaction to the woundings that we received earlier on, because we did trust somebody and then they let us down. But to answer your question directly, it is difficult, and it's still something that I long for, and I'm so thankful that God brings people into my life that I can experience that trust with. I think that's what it comes down to be honest. It's trust. It's trusting myself with others, and to be someone that can be trusted with them. Like, give me who you are, and and so that I can in whatever way be used by God to encourage and support you, or even just to be an unflinching friend. For you to tell me what's going on in your life, and me, like, I'm not going to flinch. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to support and encourage you through this. Not try to fix it, but to be there with you. But I that's what I'm looking for, when I'm looking at, or I think it's the desires of that's the desire of our hearts, relationally. So I want a place that's so safe where I can actually be myself and reveal all that stuff, and to not be rejected, and so to be known and loved, not known and rejected. So I think, the first thing that we can do, honestly, is seek to be that kind of person, to be that safe place, and to show interest and curiosity into the lives of others. And because again, we can, I think just being a safe place for someone to process, and not necessarily looking to get my needs met, first and foremost, but to be a need meter. I know this sounds like, I feel like I'm contradicting what I said earlier, but this place to start is like, okay, I want to be for others what I'd like for them to be for me, is the simple way to put it. Because we can't control other people, but we can seek to become the thing that we want others to provide. So that'd be like the first thing is just how well am I doing at being that for others, at that trusted place.
Yeah. And I think that could be one, I think we'd be amazed at the quality of the relationships that can improve when you do that, but how that can be an inspiration to, at some point we have to break the chain as guys. This can happen as, if you're around people that have that front up and have that shield up, leadership in general, we talk leading, whether it's in a company, whether it's in our family, whether it's in anything, leaders have to initiate into that. And if you're waiting for, you're probably longing for someone else to fill that need for you. But sometimes I would guess we might have to take the first step, and that requires some vulnerability, some fear to step into that. But anything you'd have on that with initiating?
Well, I think that's huge. Being the one to initiate. And I think if there was characteristics of manhood, I think an initiator it's in the top of the list. To initiate, I think that is huge. I think much of my life, to be honest with you, has been looking would somebody please provide for me what I feel like I'm missing? And I'm looking to, especially with other, I've sought out mentors and people who I could go seek wisdom from. And I think that's, I'm so thankful for the mentors that I've been able to, that people have invested into my life. And there just comes a point where we can't get stuck just looking for things from others, but to pivot, and to become and to initiate and to insert ourselves into the lives of others for their good. But knowing I'm not coming here to harm you. I'm coming here to bring about I want to actually relate. I want to actually connect. And so providing in a conversation, providing transparency and being vulnerable and all of those things. And yeah, long-winded way of saying my addition to what you said was to initiate. That's huge.
Yeah. And I'd kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this too, because I think, even if there is a fear around it, even if there is, if the fear is around this can be draining, or this is going to be taxing on me, or it's a lot of giving. I think even if you're selfish, the ability to do this and be there for someone, I think there's receiving that happens from that as well. The same way that I think when we go, service should be a selfless act, but even if there's, selfish motives behind it, I still think it can, it definitely adds to your life. It's not like this is purely a giving thing for those that might be on the fence with the worry of that needy friend or that thing. I think there's probably receiving that can happen from this as well.
100%. Yeah. To think that it's only a good thing to do as long as I'm not getting any joy out of it. That's a big lie, and it's just a recipe to create very miserable people. No, I think I think God created us to experience the joy of sacrifice and generosity. To give our lives for the betterment of someone else is actually life-giving. It can be, yeah, sure. There are tough times, and it's not always we're going to feel like it. That's the thing too, is I don't feel like it. So I shouldn't do it or whatever. It's just, no, I think it's extremely life-giving when, maybe not in that particular moment, but to know that I was stepping more fully into what I was created to do, which is to love others and to love them well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's benefit in that we can that was so much fun.
Yeah. Makes it rewarding.
Yeah.
I'm curious on, a question as we were talking to is, are there different levels to this? 'Cause I think of, for me, with my wife, Lindsay, it's easy for me to be open and vulnerable. We've gotten to the point where it's, and some guys might be in a relationship where it's not, but I feel like for me, the kind of wider the circle goes, it gets harder. Are there different levels to this in terms of within if we're married, with our spouses to like close friends to, where's the line drawn to where there's even, I can tell certain personality types I have a harder time being vulnerable around. I'm guessing that's maybe insecurities or things that I see in them maybe that that they have that I don't, and that creates insecurities. So I'm just curious your thoughts on as it expands to, should this be something we're doing with ideally with people we don't know super closely, or is it the more core of the circle, the more vulnerable we be, and then it kind of dissipates a little bit as we expand? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be different for different people. There has to be like personality plays a big part into this whole thing. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, who can I talk to about anything? Who has an all access pass into my life? Who have I given permission to like come at you, have an all access pass to kind of to call out or to speak into, like, I need you to see my life. I need to, and to both, we think, oh man, you call me out, man, when I'm off track. Like, no, it's not just call me out, but it's also that speaking into, what do you see in me that is redemptive? And what do you see me doing that it's bringing about good? And how, again, like I mentioned earlier in my story, I needed people to speak in and tell me like what they saw God doing in me and through me. And so I would say that, at a baseline, it's just like, who is that? Who, as a man, like who is that other man? I would recommend like a guy, having another guy that is that person who has an all access pass. I think spouses can be that. And I think they are naturally, they are. And I think in a healthy marriage, there's going to be some really good, life-giving, aspects to that, to what we're describing here. But I think it's also healthy to not just have it's not just my spouse that knows me, and it's not just a friend who lives on the other side of the country who knows me, but like someone that really I'm doing life with, that they see me in the inner work, throughout the week, and they have that front row seat and that all access pass into my life. So I think it doesn't need to be 10, doesn't even need to be 3, but at least like one or two others that you're living in a life that's both, the way I heard it put, I like it, was just you're living visibly and vulnerably with. Visibly, they see you in day-to-day life, and vulnerably where they have that all access pass. And so, yeah, I think it can stress out people who are like, I'm an introvert. I don't like talking about feelings already. And now you're telling me I need to go have, a big team of people and I think we're saying like, man, it's 1, it's 2, like, and I think it's also too, it's more of just a posture. We're not trying to meet a quota here, like saying, oh, you got to have it, but it's a posture of, how can I invest in and cultivate the relationships I already have? How can I lean into those and be intentional, and to seek to be provide that trusted environment where we can actually be real with one another. And so more of a posture, I'd say, than a quota.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's reassuring for the introverts out there that are not wanting to go just share their feelings with everyone. But what would you say to the extrovert listening that's, maybe has 10, 20, 30 people that they've let in, maybe 80%, they've let in, 70, 80% to a lot of people. They have no problem sharing surface level and maybe even a level deeper, but those that are still, maybe they have a lot of people they're open with and they're willing to share with, but no one that they're letting in that last 10 or 20%.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, there's a lot, extroverts, it's easy for all of my friends, this network, to know if they see the 80% or the 90, but who is it that gets that 10%? Who is it that I've invited in and to be a part of that? So I think for the extrovert, it'd probably be the same thing. It's just like, it's asking like, who is it? And not just like, oh, it's Dave because I like him and we talk about things, but like, I mean, let's be intentional here. Let's say like, no, I'm going to start, because I know that it's in my best interest and the interest of Dave, like for us to be healthy, strong leaders and men, like we need to have time and space for these conversations. And so when is that happening? Put it on a calendar, like kind of schedule your life around these important relationships. And so it can be easy to be an extrovert and to be, oh, everyone knows me, they like me, or like you're just kind of constantly with people and stuff, but to be completely alone, for people to not even know you, they don't know what's really going on with you. And so again, it doesn't have to be everybody and all your Facebook friends. It just needs to, I think there needs to be one or two people that truly do know us. And so, I mean, for me, what that looks like is we've started doing these things. We call them DNA groups at Seekos, and it's 3 or 4 guys who meet regularly, and it's really to provide space and time for these kinds of conversations, and to look over God's word together, to ask the hard questions and to be able to share what's going on. And so it's in my calendar and it's a regular thing. And I know that there's times where like I know I'm getting together with my DNA group and these guys, like they're gonna there's times I look forward to it, like, oh man, I can't wait to for them to share this burden or to whatever. And there's times where I'm like, oh shoot, they're gonna ask about this and I don't know if I'm ready to go there.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's a commitment. It's in the calendar.
Well, I'd say that regular rhythm is probably important too, because if you don't have that, it's not like just because you have someone that you've been able to share that with in the past that you're gonna walk in the door and I'm just gonna be like, oh man, here's what's going on, and get right into it. I think there's kind of probably still a buildup that has to happen, and that probably is minimized though the more regular that those interactions are occurring, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like stepping into the gym. If it's like a regular part of your routine and stuff, it's going to be a whole lot a different experience than just once a quarter, which is what I've been up to lately. Like, oh yeah. So yeah, you develop like just it's getting your reps in relationally, and there's no place that we need to say, oh, like here's where you need to be at. It's like, no, it's just, again, it's a posture, it's a direction, it's an intentionality, just to lean in to that and to cultivate that.
Yeah, I think it's been awesome so far. And I some of the questions that are coming up, I'm just trying to picture questions that might be being asked. I know we're a little off script as usual, but for the, for guys that might, or for anyone listening, is it okay does it have to be a mutual relationship? Does it have to be like you and I sharing each other? So you share, I share type thing, or are there going to be some times where that might not be the case and you might have to, give in, or I guess give as in listen in one case where you come in, I'm someone that you trust to be able to confide in and listen to, but maybe you're not necessarily hearing my feelings or emotions, or I don't feel comfortable.
Like it's not mutual.
Yeah. And is it okay to have those as separate things, or should that be, I know ideally it's in the same relationship, but are there times where that's going to be kind of separated, you might have to be on the receiving end for one and give on another side of it?
Yeah. Your question just reminded me of DTRs back in the day. Got to define the relationship.
MySpace official.
Yeah. What's our status? No, I think I don't think it has to be any certain way. I think it's good to know. I think it's good to have a mutual, like, here's a place where we both have said, like, again, going back to that all access pass, that we both have been giving each other that all access pass and permission. There's going to be people, and even in that scenario, there's going to be times, let's say you and I, Dave, we're meeting regularly. There's going to be times where you're going through the ringer and it isn't very much me entering in and into your world, so it can kind of feel like it's all love. And so like towards you and like, the time and the conversation is all regarding whatever issue you're going through and life circumstance. And then there's going to be times where it's me. And then there's going to be times where it's just like, we're just checking in. So life happens, there's ebbs and flows to that. But, if you're in a relationship, or if you're in a, you're meeting with somebody and they're just constantly, like, again, the terminology that comes to mind is like, they're sucking you dry. There's people who give life and then take it. When you're in a, you're hanging out with someone and just like every single time you get together, it's just sucking you dry. I mean, that's that could be, well, I don't know what, it all varies. Like, I think in my line of work and what I do, a lot of my time is spent with that because it's just the role that I have. That's my job. And I love that. And I think it's actually easy for me to think, to just become, I'm just a giver. I'm just going to be here to support and encourage them and to listen to them. And then I can become shut off and isolated. So it's actually really important for me to remember that, no, I'm needy as well. And I need to be a part of relationships where I'm being ministered to, put it that way. So I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, the mutualness, the give and take versus one way. How would you respond to your own question?
Yeah, it came up as you were talking, because I can think back to times, all the scenarios of having something mutual. Obviously, I think is the most fulfilling and most rewarding, of knowing that, going into a conversation that I may be on more of the listening end, or I may be on more of the talking end based on that. But I've also been on other sides where I'm listening a lot and just absorbing and taking it in, which I'm totally fine with. But then
you're a good listener.
If I'm only doing that, then, and if I'm not getting a chance to express it, then it gets pent up. And I know being more of a bias for me towards listening than to expressing. I have a harder time expressing things, but I'm more okay. That also causes me to hide to some degree, because I'm more okay asking questions and listening and absorbing. And I think I have more capacity to do that than maybe someone who's always talking. And good examples, honestly, with Lindsay and I would say, and she would agree, like I do more of the listening, but there's times then the hurt's deeper for me, I think, when I do try and express and I don't feel heard, or if I don't have that outlet with other guys, or with her in particular. I have this capacity to listen, but when I do speak, I don't say it carries more weight, but I'm more looking for someone to be able to hear me the same way that I feel like I can hear others.
Yeah. That's such a gift. Like, when someone's a good listener, it's like, again, it is such an amazing gift. That's what people, so I'm in my marriage, I'm the talker. And Paige. Sorry, Paige. And she has a gift of just being able to listen and to really make me feel heard. And it's a phenomenal gift. I try to do that for other people, and it's tough, but I think you're a fantastic listener, and you're really listening. You're not just allowing someone to talk. Like, you're actually listening to what they say, but you also have your own needs or your own things that you need to articulate, and you need to have that place to be able to do that. So you need to be more of a guest on a podcast versus the host of one. I think that's what we're getting down to here.
Yeah, that's the secret. No, I appreciate that. And, I think it just shows, though, I love that tangent, because it just shows that I think as a listener, I hear, we'll call listeners and talkers for easy division. I think as a listener, I hear people that are so open with their feelings, and you hear the talkers that maybe are sharing that 80% too, especially with social media nowadays. I think that's such a danger, because it's business friendly to be vulnerable and be authentic and let people in to a degree.
Yeah.
But you see people that can more easily do that. And as a listener, I think that's harder, because you're like, oh, I wish I could just more easily share. But as the talker side as well, I think especially as it relates to this conversation, there's needs to work on too, of like, oh, maybe I'm talking too much and need to work more on that listening skills. That's something that you've had to like intentionally develop over the years.
Yeah, 100%, dude, 100%. Like, I remember, again, there's this one moment I remember where I was giving a little presentation with a group of leaders at our church, and a guy that I was meeting with at the time was a part of that group. And so I gave my little presentation, and we met up the next week, and he kind of was like, "Hey, I think we should debrief your presentation, or what you shared." And I still remember this day. He said, he asked me some questions like, "How prepared do you feel like you were?" Blah, 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 some diagnostic questions. I'm like, "Oh gosh, he's setting something up here."
Here it comes.
And then he laid it on me. He's like, "I feel like you subjected the entire audience to whatever, half hour, 45 minutes of rambling, or like you subjected this group of people to your just endless rambling." And again, he didn't use those specific words, but that's like what I heard. And I was like, now I don't know if that was like the most, helpful way to put it. Thank you, Mr. Mentor. But it was also, one of those things where it showed me like numerous things, but it did in that moment. It was like, you know what, I need to, and I want to become a better listener. And that wasn't what that presentation was about. I was there to talk, and for the record, I was unprepared. But I think when he said that, it also kind of evoked this sense of like, oh man, like, I think I do that a lot. I think I do that. I talk and talk and talk, and it's not because I'm trying to necessarily make a point. Maybe sometimes, but there's a sense of just, I want, either I'm trying to prove myself to this person. I want them to think of me in a certain way. And at the end of the day, it's like, man, I want to also be a person that knows how to listen well. I want to be, again, that safe place for someone they can share whatever's going on with them. And it takes asking good questions. It takes curiosity. And so, yeah, it's been a journey and a process. I'm far from done, but I think there's been an unawareness, and that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. I love that you say awareness, because I'm sure people listening can, mostly identify on one side or the other of either the, hopefully it's revealed an opportunity to improve either on the expression side of it or the listening side of it, and being that for someone else. And if you I guess if you don't know where you're at, then seeking feedback, or just starting to have that awareness. If you're like, I haven't listened in a couple months, and I'm just always, or vice versa, I think it's good to have some of that awareness.
Yeah, I honestly ask somebody, hey, do you think I'm a good listener? Like, ask for feedback on it and let people talk. I don't do that. No, it's a scary thing, but we can't address what we don't know.
Right.
And so let's, a lot of people in our life that have been brought there to help us see our blind spots. And it's not to say, I gotcha, like, you idiot. Like, no, it's, man, this is an area that's actually holding you back from becoming more fully who God created you to be. So it's an act of love.
Yeah. And if they start it with, do you really want to know the truth?
Yeah, then you know it's coming.
Then you know it's coming. And you probably need to ask me more. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't actually.
Yeah. No, that's so great. No, I love this chat so far. We can start to wrap things up. Is there anything you want to add on the topic of just receiving love to give love as it relates to leadership, as it relates to leadership in our marriage, in our workplace, or any of those things that you want to add to it?
I mean, I feel like it's just one of those topics that bleeds into everything. I think being able to trust others with yourself, and I'd say for me, it's trusting God with who I am and trusting others with myself. That's where true growth is. And, to the degree we trust people, that will either limit or bring about growth. Because we're not created to do life alone and to be everything. You and we do not possess within ourselves the resources to live this life apart from other people. We're interconnected, interdependent, and that's how we were created to be. And so I think it affects every aspect of life. And so, yeah, I mean, for those for your listeners who are married, I mean, 100%, like that's where a lot of this begins. That's you can't, I mean, you can leave, you can clock out at the end of the day or say goodbye to your coworkers, your colleagues or whatever, like, but at the end of the day, like you're with your spouse. And that actually for me has been a place where a lot of this stuff has been kind of within myself has been, experienced and expressed. And it hasn't all been pretty, but it's been one of those things where I'm so thankful that the way that God has designed us to be. And I want to just step more fully into that. So,
yeah, that's great. And I think you bring up a good point too, with whatever your beliefs are, your marriage needs to come before coworkers, come before those things. If you find that you're able to confide more easily in coworkers or in friends, but you feel like you're keeping things from a spouse, I think that's sort of the first place we have to start in the home, and being able to, how that affects our relationship, our kids, our future kids, and all those things. I think it's definitely a place we have to start.
Yeah, 100%. If that's happening in your marriage, I mean, it's a light on the dashboard saying there's something going on in the engine. Check engine. And again, that's a place of asking for help. If we have to get help with our marriage, like we're expressing we're not perfect. And guess what? Anyone who knows you is not going to be surprised. It's a statement of like, we're limited, we're weak, and we need help. So yeah, lean into that.
Yeah. And especially with your background in the church too. And I totally understand not everyone listening is, shares my beliefs or our beliefs, and we're totally fine with that. But I know we were talking off camera here of how your relationship with God, can kind of enhance that. So we talked a lot about community with others, and which, regardless of your beliefs, I think we can all agree that that's, a core principle is having that with other people. But how does your relationship with God, or how have you seen this played out with others in terms of, I won't say enhancing this, but making it easier to share, to lean into that?
So how's my relationship with God been a resource for me relationally with others? Is that kind of the question?
How has it made this whole topic easier? Because this is a tough topic. How has your relationship with God allowed you to be more vulnerable, allowed you to both accept and give love in that way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's like what I mentioned earlier. It's accepting that I'm a created being, and then the idea of I have a God who created me, who loves me, and I don't think he, we talk about I mean, Jesus comes, and Jesus, he does what he does. He lives a perfect life. He dies in our place. There's forgiveness. And what's so cool about the Christian gospel is that there's not just forgiveness of sins, but there's also new life. It's that we are created, like the Bible tells us that if we are in Christ, we're a new creation. And I think about new creation. Wow, like, okay, so if I'm a new creation, how did God create me? Well, he created me. He doesn't create broken things. He doesn't create things that are broken and just like and are repulsive. No, he created something beautiful, and it's just leaning into how did God create me to be? And he created me for relationships, and he's done everything that that is needed to be done to draw me back into relationship with him. And I don't have anything to hide before God. I know, like, a lot of times when we think of God, oh man, he's just a lot of times we can conjure up the sense of like there's an angry deity who's out to get me. And like that's a lie. That's not who God is. He is love, and he's expressed his love in the person of Jesus Christ. So like when I think about God, I know that I have a loving Father, a Heavenly Father who loves me and has given his son for me. And so there's a sense like for that to be good news, first and foremost, I have to come to the place that I'm admitting need. Like the gospel, it requires us to admit need. In order to receive the love of God, we have to say, I need that. That there, that there is something that is wrong, and that God has redeemed, and he has come in, he's provided everything that's needed for that rescue to happen. And so that to me, it's, when I think about my relationship with God and being a resource for relating to other people, is that I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to prove. I don't have to have anything to protect. I don't have to pretend, because God knows everything about me and and truly loves me. Like, that sets me free to go out and to love others. It sets me free to go out and to express to others, like, I need you, because my meaning and my value in life is not about me being the macho man and having it all together. That's not the scorecard that I'm playing off of anymore. Like, when God looks at me, he's like, no, I'm really pleased with my creation. I'm pleased with Matt. I created him in such a beautiful way. And I want him to lean more fully into who I created him to be. And for me to experience that, it's just, it takes the pressure off of needing to prove myself to other people. It's like, I'm accepted by God for who I am, and I can go and spend my life giving to others versus trying to take from them. And so that's one of those things that has really bleeds into all of life for me as well, is, it's like receiving love from God vertically, and to be able to express that horizontally, because we'll only give away what we believe that we've received. And if we believe that God is stingy and holding out on us, we're not gonna give much away, because we're gonna hold it to ourselves. We have a God who's lavished crazy love on us, and is filled us and is sending us to love and to bless others. And so that's huge.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I hear a lot of things within that, but one thing that stands out is it seems like that vertical relationship expands our capacity to give, where with that relationship, we don't have to be as reliant on other people. In my example, I don't have to be as reliant on other people hearing me or having to, receive as much from a relationship, even though I know that's so important and still something we need, those mutual relationships like we talked about, but I think it does expand our capacity to give more and not have to look for a mutual, like 50-50 exchange of like, hey, man, last time I spent an hour talking, so like, you give me an hour today,
Yeah. Or to like, yeah, we're obsessed with like the ROI on this relationship. It's like, you know what? No, I've been given everything. God has not held back. He's given me everything in Jesus, and I'm here to give. I mean, what does life begin to look like when you truly believe that you lack nothing? You've been given everything that ultimately matters. All of the meaning and value and acceptance and, all of that. When you believe that you have that in Christ, like, it just sets you free to go and to be a blessing to others. And you're at the same time, and again, feels a little bit like a paradox, but it also means that I can go and be real with others and to receive their love. It's like, because there are ways, being here as humans on this planet, we're still going to have needs, and people are waiting for us, standing by, waiting for us to love us. We have to believe that.
Yeah. Awesome point. And, as we start to wrap up here, and it's a fitting question that, as I approach you about the podcast, and even on the, this one's very heavily, obviously the love and the vulnerability piece is already ingrained to it. So it doesn't need as much of a segue, but in, other ones talked about of people get on for health podcasts or business things or leadership things. And, one of the questions asked people is on vulnerability, because, we've talked about, especially in the social media world, it's such a, facade of like, all is good. We see the highlight reels, we see those things, and that can be dangerous for men to see, because it creates this, it reinforces the belief that we have to have it all together, that we have to put up that macho front, that we can't be vulnerable, because we see all these people that are, quote, successful, that are, have it all together. They've got the the external things, the house, the marriage, all these things, but we don't see the whole picture on that. So, I'd love, because you're a pastor, so you got everything figured out. You got
Totally.
life 100% dialed in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I know you don't have anything you're vulnerable about, but if you did have something to be vulnerable about, is there anything, any challenge you faced maybe recently or in the past that ended up being actually a catalyst for your growth as a man?
Oh man, it's a great question. Yeah. And the quick answer is yes, 100%. I think most recently it's been a season, but with my wife, Paige, and just the journey of pregnancy. Never ever thought that was going to be a thing. I thought once you want to have kids, you do a couple of things and you have kids, and I just thought that it was just as easy as that. And this whole journey, like for us over the course of probably 5-6 years of going through, we've had several miscarriages. There's been just these weird question marks in terms of like, is this ever going to work out for us? And then, like I mentioned earlier, we have like two years ago, God totally blessed us with Archer, our son. And there's, we would love to have a growing family. And so it's both a past journey and a current one that has brought me to this place of, man, like it's on multiple levels. It's been really difficult. And I think one of the things is, talking about emotions and feelings and all that stuff, as much as I talk about how important that is, it's something that is still hard for me to do. And it can be really hard for me to do at times with Paige as we go through these hardships and, these losses. She's a feeler, she's, and very emotional, and these kinds of things are very emotional, especially for our wives, that, when I remember just even recently when we went through another loss, it was just a sense of like, man, like I feel like it was exposing in me this, like, I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like I'm enough to be what she needs in this moment. It made me feel weak. Made me feel inadequate. And again, these are things that can be really linchpins to like pivot me to no, it's okay that I'm weak. It's okay that I'm not enough. My adequacy is not found in my ability to fix this. But those feelings come up, and it's once again, I think through this whole, I'm just going to call it a season because it's a multi-year journey that we've been on. I've been blown away with how God has brought other women into Paige's life to minister, to care for, and to love on her, and to be there with her in a way that I just feel like I can't. I don't feel, I don't have all that she needs, and that's okay. And so, but it makes me thankful that the way that God provides those kinds of people. And in the same way for me, that I've been able to go out and process with other men, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, like this not enoughness, this inadequacy, to be able to process that and to be vulnerable with it. So honestly, that's been such there's been multiple things that I've learned and am learning through that journey of pregnancy and wanting to grow and build a family, that if it wasn't for that, there would be many things I just would never have learned about who God is and who I am, and how to be a husband, how to be to love her well in that. So that that's definitely the one that's, I think, the most fresh and ongoing is that. And you know what, it's not something I can just go and fix. I can't go watch a few YouTube videos and or have it figured out, or read a book. There's a lot of question marks. And so for me, it's just learning to I want to be a team together with her. I don't want this to drive us apart. And so for me, it's leading is taking initiative I want to walk this journey together and to enter in and not resist feeling all these feelings, but enter into them and to be there with her. It's tough though.
Yeah. man, I appreciate you sharing that. And it's, I know how tough it's been, but also an encouragement to seek that unity and to be an encouragement for others that whether they're going through something specifically the same or other, marriage holds its whole waves of challenges and struggles. But, I love what you said about not having to be everything for our spouse. And I think, I definitely fall into that too, of trying to fill every need and solve every problem and do that. And to know that that's not on us to do that or to put pressures on our spouse to do the same for us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the gifts that we can give to our spouses that we would have other guys that we can confide in, just so that they're not our lightning pole. Yeah. Just come home and dump on them. There's enough going on in life to just to spread it out and to share. So yeah, cultivating that is huge gift for our spouse.
Yeah, no, this has been great. And I don't know how to find just a few takeaways. I don't know if you have any summaries. I know we mentioned things like identifying it, like surrounding in community and finding those people that you can confide in, whether it's just one person being able to pour in to 100%, not living at that 80% mark. And any other things you want to add? We touched on a lot of things, and I think it's applicable whether you're on the listening end or the talking end, or whether you're guy, girl, whatever you believe in. This is something that to be the way we're created to be and to live in that community, we have to be able to embrace. And it's hard, it's sticky, it's challenging, but any encouragement for people trying to step out into this?
So one author, he puts it this way: it takes a lifetime to learn how to live, and so let's just be okay with where we're at, but we're setting a course ahead here, and we're heading in a direction and trying to develop a posture. So it's okay wherever you're at today. There's no shame, there's no guilt in that. It takes a lifetime to learn how to live, and so we're all works in progress. And so that's the first thing. Actually, speaking of that author, his name is Chip Dodd. He wrote a book called The Voice of the Heart, and maybe you could throw that in the show notes or something for your listeners. That book for me was one of the books that I think just kind of gave me these aha moments of discovering what is it that I'm feeling here, and he does a fantastic job identifying the core feelings and giving language to that. So as far as summary, wrap up thoughts, this, it's a process. And, as we seek to become, to become healthy as men, it's not just our physical health and our mental health, it's spiritual health, it's emotional, it's relational health as well. And so I'm thankful for you, Dave, that you would even, tie this in, bring me in here to have this conversation, tie this into for your listeners as they are all pursuing health and to become the best version of themselves as they can. We can't ignore our hearts, and it takes time, but we can't ignore what's going on inside, because we could have everything right on the surface, but if our hearts are just behind walls because we have not allowed them to come out, that's not healthy. And so I'm hoping that this would be an encouragement to the guys, the listeners, men and women that are on this journey of health, and that they would be able to find and to cultivate those relationships with others.
No, I totally appreciate coming on. And when we wanted to get you on here initially talked about it, we were thinking of ideas, how to build bigger biceps as a pastor, how to,
different episode.
We'll save that one for a different one. But, I love being able to share this, and it's this kind of episode, I think people can respond different ways to it. I really, encourage people to take this to heart and see that this bleeds into everything, because it's said, whether you're pursuing health, whether you're pursuing, finances or business help, or just trying to live a better life, this is the foundation of it. And I think, I'm just excited for you to be able to come on and for us to be able to share this, because it is important. And some people might, there's going to be people that probably roll their eyes or see the episode of vulnerability and love. And it's like, well, that's not what I'm looking for in trying to better myself. But it's such a principle that just, expands to wherever you're at, whatever you're trying to do. And especially as men, it's hard to do. It's hard to talk about. I think it's hard to have a safe space to have that, to see that as okay, but know that it is. And if you're having a hard time finding that, I think it's something that, you can have what you want this map, but finding a community where you can, and finding maybe a friend where you can, or finding someone where you can confide in. Because if it feels like this is so out there and something that's not possible for your situation, then I'd say probably evaluate where you can find people that will accept you for who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, who are the people you already are spending your time with, and what would it look like to lean into those relationships with intention and to be vulnerable. And, it's going to be risky. It's going to be dangerous, but the greater risk is to like keep yourself sealed up. That's the greater risk. And so live from the heart, live fully, and to lean into that. It's going to be not only a gift to you, but it's going to be a gift to others as well.
Yeah, so great. And we do have one more hypothetical question here. We ask all the guests, and I know you weren't prepared as of the start.
Lay it on me, bro. Let's go.
But you're ready to go. So you have your leaving favorite coffee shop in town, which is.
Ooh, right now it's Phil's. Yeah, I'm just the pour over guy right now.
The pour over, love it.
Yeah,
we're all about our pour overs. But so you're leaving Phil's, and you run into younger Matt 10 years prior.
Oh, dang!
And an important on your way to meet with Paige and Archie. You got an important day with them. Can't be late. 60 seconds to talk with younger Matt. He's looking for some life advice, some wisdom. What are you saying to him, and what advice are you giving to him?
Oh man, first thing is start surfing. Start to surf.
Catch the bug.
I started surfing recently, and I'm secretly holding a grudge against everybody who did not get me into it sooner. So you know who you are. No, that's one thing. The other thing would be shave your beard. It does not look good. The third thing would, just to kind of echo on what we've been talking about here, because this is not just theoretical. Hey, let's talk about this topic. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, cool. This is what I've been living in and what we've been talking about for a while. And it would be just the exact same advice. Would be like, Matt, don't live in fear. Like, lean in and to trust others with yourself. Trust God with who you are. Trust others with yourself. Don't waste time trying to be strong and pretend and to bluff your way through life. My younger self would be confused with all that meant, but it's the core of that message is you are enough. God has made you enough. You can live your life trusting him with yourself and others with yourself, and experience just the life and the freedom that comes in that.
Man, I love it. Do you have any place people can connect with you or maybe with the church if that's a better place?
I'm always in the gym. Come on, but I'm just kidding. I'm never in the gym.
A set of girls in.
Man, I'm not much of a social media guy, but I am on Twitter at Matt Carlson. Got on there early enough, so I don't have to be at Matt Carlson _7525553.
That's big.
But that'd be the one place. And then at Seacoast, if you guys are interested in checking Seacoast out, we're seacoast-church.org. Seacoast-church.org. So those are the two places.
Love it, bro. I know you're not a big social media guy. That's why I had to go there though. But man, I appreciate you coming on. Love the topic today.
Thank you.
I love what guys are gonna get out of it if they can, take it and you don't have to agree with everything we talked about in it, but peel back and find those core principles, those things, find just even, one or two things that you can take and start to, like I say, lean into and just, embrace it. Don't write it off as something that's not applicable to you, because I guarantee it's applicable to everyone. So love it. Love you, bro. Appreciate being on.
Man. Thanks for having me.
For sharing it. Yeah.
Woo.